All right. Well, I mean, obviously, we're here to take care of our backs and a little bit of chillin', but I have been, and I have to thank, I mean, not that it would have been foreign to me anyway, but I really have to thank and been so proud, if I could just squawk for a dad for a minute, about how my daughter Zoe has responded to the current social unrest and that the crazy murder of George Floyd that we've all witnessed. And I guess I just wanted to kind of recognize the context of it, and in the midst of everything else that has been big in my heart, and I'm very happy that me and Zoe have gone downtown and protested, and it's really been cool to see the evolution and the change since Sunday, and to Sunday, I should say, to the bigger and just the change in the energy and the way it's going. And to me, it's just such a good, I guess it's such a good expression for me, like with all of these things, these yogic philosophies are what I fall back on. And this idea of karma, which can be kind of simplified and a little bit misunderstood, but it's really the process from which we grow, right? It's the principle of resistance that makes the universe a big learning factory. And like with this situation, right, where there's injustice, when there's unfairness and fear, right, the natural response to that is fire. And as you guys have all heard me squawk about many times, right, the metaphor of fire is the alchemy of all change from the Vedic perspective, which looks at the world through those 5 elements as a way to give ourselves a little different view. And so the energy of fire is just change itself. So it's right, like we're with this bigger shift in what's happening in the country. I just really feel, to me, I'm like kind of trusting in that that energy, because the nature of fire, right, is willpower, friend of self, willpower, enemy of self, is it can be really constructive or destructive, and it's usually some combination of both. So I just want to, as conscious friends, as we come together in this time with all of these layers of craziness, I just wanted to kind of invite us to honor that part of the fire, right? That energy for freedom, for fairness, for justice is the same call that brings us to the mat, right? Is for greater balance and harmony in ourselves. So we're going to play with that idea a little bit tonight. Just this idea of how do we honor this fire? How do we create space for it? And also just as a group of people coming together in this world where we're all connected, just create a little bit of space for, our current context, and open ourselves up to a bigger view of the world and ourselves, right? That's the invitation in yoga. All right, I didn't mean to get so carried away. All right, let's kind of want to cook us a little bit first. Let's just do a quick little down regulating. We'll connect with, I'm gonna mute us all. Remember, if you have any troubles or anything's not making sense, please just unmute yourself. Let's start, and in fact, like Meredith has a really good seat. Like Meredith, if you want to stay seated, or someone wants to do this next piece of meditation, because like I said, we're gonna try to keep myself a little bit more on track on time tonight. So just yogi's choice, please either slide down onto your back for a little bit of breath work and meditation, or give yourself a little bit of internal rotation and create a nice, good seat. So folks laying down, you could be in constructive rest. You could just have your feet flat. We do the prop with really the whatever's most comfortable. A lot of the regulars know that I'm a big fan of this propping the upper body, so the ribs are a little bit more in tune, and that gives us more access to the breath in our back bodies. Folks sitting, of course, just give yourself a little rotation. The folks sitting could also do Adi Mudra if you like. The folks laying down might want to just slide your hands onto your bellies. And assuming you've settled, please just take a little fuller, more willful, more fiery breath into the space you occupy. Just take a nice bright breath into your skin, feel your space. Let the exhale be a little bit bigger and things just settle, let go, clear it out, let go of unnecessary contraction, mental and physical. Relax your throat and chest. Do the breath again, but use some of those tools you have and connect the next inhale a little bit more deliberately to low belly and pelvis. But really the same invite, just with this little greater sense of gravity and pelvis and how inhale can affect and connect us to pelvic floor. Exhale, soften your skin and your brain and your personality. And the genesis of this next inhale will be even deeper. Wait for it, enjoy it. In fact, we could even move into the practice. We've been kind of building class around the super simple next inhale is kissing the tips of nostrils, but really feel this pull all the way down in pelvic floor and between sits bones, belly gets nice and full. Slow it down, but still building on this invitation for a little greater internal consciousness, a little greater internal gaze. Reminding ourselves, even as I reminded us of the greater social situation and our interplay of life, the object of yoga is you. Feel what's happening now. The quality of exhale is just a lift, rising up from pelvic floor towards heart. Continue to feel it as a letting go, as a softening. Allow it to relax the energy behind your eyes. Please continue. Next exhale as it reaches up towards your heart. Allow it to soften the root of your tongue, and the space between your eyebrows just becomes broad and open. Yogis have a radical precept that there's one light of consciousness that animates and connects us all. And it's through this connection that anytime we create space, we connect more from our hearts, we're really affecting the space of all of us. This is expressed, of course, in many layers of our reality, just simply environmentally. And as you choose to step out of your own momentum and create a space of greater consciousness, let's just remember all those other beings and all of those other hearts that we share this world with. Many of them in challenging situations, and many of us being pulled and grounded in scary places where we have that inevitable human choice. Do we take this path of fear or do we take this path of love? Let's affirm that path of love with our own fire. And let's dedicate our class tonight to that choice, to that human call that we all have the opportunity as we take this journey of growth and expansion, which we're on, if we're conscious of it or not. Yoga is the tools to remember it, to accelerate it, to Celebrate it. Feel breath smooth and even into belly and pelvis. Check in with the breath pattern. Inhale into pelvic floor, exhale, lifting up to heart. And then let's just give ourselves just a moment here to just rest at your heart. Just feel that part of you that's hearing my voice. Awareness, consciousness itself, just resting right at your heart center. This true extraordinary power, our ultimate resource and destination. The yogis call it anahata, the unstruck sound. From our hearts, let's just connect to it. The folks sitting down also, or laying down, everyone can just come into Anjali Mudra. You can either just turn into your heart or just drop your chin. And take a breath into the back of your heart. The fire can be so scary, but it's truly a gift if we can facilitate it from a grounded place with plenty of space and an intention of love. Release your hands. The folks sitting can just take a moment to let your eyes adjust and lift. Let's stretch out, and I'll ask the folks, we'll just kind of front load a little bit because we'll get ourselves a little quiet here at the end since Chillin is now in our name. So the folks on their backs, if you guys could just draw, and feel free to take advantage of Apanasana. You could just bring your knees up to your chest and give yourself a squeeze and a rock. But I think we're gonna jump right into the big Psoas stretch tonight, create some space right off the bat. So you guys work yourself up. The folks who are sitting, you guys just come forward. And since we're jumping right into this one, let's just let our hips know. We'll just get a little bit into our hips. So we're just gonna wiggle feet a little bit wider than you, lift up toes. It's healthy low back class. So I'm gonna start squawking about a healthy natural lumbar curve, relentlessly lift up a little bit through your heart. Is there an opportunity to be less on your tailbone and more on your sits bones? Do the best you can. We're not going into the whole pose first. We're gonna just get a little bit into hips. But we're gonna kind of head towards it. Take your knees side to side, please, with really active feet. So there's this sense of you're using that good willpower, that energy of fire to create a stability. Spread your toes so enthusiastically that you can feel a sense not only of stability up to the knees, but the sense almost like, it's a Joe Miller phrase, psychic tights, right? This energetic tights, this sense of all the way up into the hips. And then we're just kind of letting things know where we're heading. So just take the inside with very active toes down towards the floor a time or two. And then we're gonna pause. A few weeks back, we played with some versions of Tsuki Ranjasana sitting down. It's just another in. And so some reminders here are where we have the play is just the angle of our legs. And the tighter you are up here, but also the relationship, once again, is lumbar curve, low back curve, in terms of how deep we get into the hips. Because where we're heading, you might want to lean back, you might even want to use a hand, is to bring your right ankle over left knee. And everything I just described will tend to show up here, right? Will tend to sink down. The right hip is gonna tuck way under. So adjust accordingly in terms of what's just practical right now. But everybody squeeze in a bit between the knees. Use your fingertips, hands back behind you, and stretch up tall. I don't mean to be a broken record, but assuming your right leg is crossed, really roll your right sits bone down towards the floor. And then, of course, if those with the more open hips, you can also tighten up too, of course. Lifting up tall, taking a breath, keeping some adduction here, some good active energy in foot. We're gonna turn it into a quick little twist here, but before we do that, just take advantage of what I'm hoping you're finding in this pose, is there's just this active stretch in your right hip as you lift up tall and roll sits bone down, but then keep that active stretch, and let's just give that muscle that's working a bit, it's the glutes obviously, a little bit of action, a little bit of appreciation maybe as we work them. And then what we're gonna do is, and we kind of just stay real present to your legs. This kind of falls into place, but it might not be readily obvious. We're gonna drop your right foot over towards the left, and then the leg that's on the floor is gonna need to slide in a little bit. And then from there, we can just change our orientation. So we're up here, dropped over, we slid this leg in a bit, and we can slide back. Some of us might even want to slide a blanket or something underneath. From here, you're gonna hold your knee with left hand. You know where we're going. Matsa Aryandrasana. That's horrible when you miss the Sanskrit up on the internet. Inhale, lift up your heart, broaden out your elbows. Exhale, turn your head and heart to the right. Matsa Andrasana. That's not even a good, it's really a bad, karmically, Susan, that's a really bad pose to mess up the name, because so many poses are just like animals or these other things. Matsa Andrasana was a fish, it's a great story, was a fish who saw a yogi on the beach, became obsessed, it gets a little involved, but basically becomes a great yogi fish, it happens. Inhale, big lift up through your heart, exhale, twist to the right. And then you can just kind of relax out of this and unwind, or you can really activate that lower foot and just roll yourself back up. Let's end up, we're in a place to switch up to the second side. And remember, we'll add them things and take it to a twist, but we're gonna get into the glutes a little bit first. So find the place. Remember, you can lower the leg. I like this. It's a trickier way to work, and the core has to stay a little more active, which I like. But it also should give us, that's why I like the Tsuki Ranjasana, almost all of us should have a place where this can work. But give me a shout if you need a specific modification. So I don't mean to be a broken record. I know you guys are all working it. Spread the toes of your top side foot. Roll the pubic bone down. The leg that's crossed, really take that sits bone down, lift up your heart, palate slides back. Don't mistake, some of us here, Kathleen, no one's pointing fingers at you, but some of us here, it'll be easy for body to wanna pop ribs while we try to create lumbar curve, right? So those of us with a little bit more freedom in that rib popping action, that's kind of the opportunity. This is a cool place to work, because we're also getting into those muscles that keep us caught up a little bit in this pattern. It's win-win. And then once you've just got a good edge, remember, we're just gonna rock a little bit. And you are really in charge here, obviously, breath and body. And listening from a compassionate space are our two teachers. So feel free to freestyle a little bit in terms of just what you're finding in this left hip, the side you're crossed, assuming you're with me. You're gonna drop over now. So remember, we drop over, the foot's gonna land, the lower foot's gonna slide in. We're gonna curl ourselves back up. Some of us might need to prop a little bit. And if you use the knee of the top side leg, you can just use that to just pull up some length. And then hold that with your right hand. Left hand's gonna walk around behind you. You're gonna turn in towards the top side leg. Inhale tall, broaden out your elbows. Exhale your head and heart to the left. Breathe all around the circumference of the ribs. Breathe into belly. Now I feel, Susan, I should tell you more about Ardha Matsyendrasana. Well, just Matsyendrasana because it's not half fish. That's the pose. Inhale, lift up. But it's really cool. It's the story, if the folks who are maybe interested in some of the mythology stuff, it's an interesting vein of the tradition in that Matsyendrasana is the first expression of Vishnu, who's the sustaining deity. And you can see that he does this he does this very cool evolution from fish to all these other things. Big bright breath as an expression of that's in our inherent state, right, is growth, and that's the growth of sustaining. We're still here. Take a big bright breath, and remember, you could untwist, slide that leg out, roll yourself up. All right, you guys, I declare us officially ready to open up some space. It's kind of beautiful, right? It's because all that compression, the stress, all of that, not only it contracts the seat, our ability to digest, the seat of fire at Manipura, but also heart, right? We're getting pulled in, everything's tight, crazy times. And so that's why I love this pose, energetically, anatomically, is so, I think most of us know where we're going, is this big, we need some space around us. Feet are flat, you don't need anything but you. You're gonna wiggle your feet a little bit wider. Fingertips back behind you. I know I'm a broken record. Stretch up tall. We're warmed up for this now, though. So take yourself just side to side. And there's some, I was going to say subtle. They're maybe not that subtle. Some anatomical reasons why it's a good idea to stretch your right side psoas first. And so you're going to drop your knees to your left. And reminders here. Foot and knee are pressing together. You're leaning into your left thigh. You've walked your hands around behind you. And let's just work this pose a bit. Fingertips would be useful here, but whatever works, we just want to be as long as is available. Imagine someone's touching you on your crown. Inhale tall. Broaden out your elbows. Palate slides back. We were just in a nice twist. Take advantage of that. Please breathe right into your spine, whole thing. Use your shoulder blades to find a rotation of heart and head together. That's when we're at our best, right? Where head and heart are working together. Walk yourself out. Oh, I didn't give us much time there, did I? Maybe one more breath. Well, I've already made the call. Now we're there. We already did do some good, we were pretty warmed up for this. So from here, now I've been given us this, this option in this kind of floating version where, remember, feel free to go right to forearms on blocks. There could be other modifications. I could give you one if you need one. But if it works, float out here in this wide arm chaturanga. I just really like this place. Grip your right finger pads, lift up your right shoulder and armpit. And then there, it's kind of cool because as we integrate the shoulder, we just have this kind of unique access to inhaling long through the spine and rotating. Look over your right shoulder. Get out of here at any point. There's clearly, obviously, a lot of work. Come on down to the version that works for you. And you guys know what I think I got wrong there. I'm sorry, you guys. Turning your head and heart to the left is from here. And then we're going to pull that length. So hopefully not necessarily, you'll feel it where you need it, but where we're getting the access is in right side belly. Pull that a little bit longer. And then this is the tough part with the fire, right? Because as soon as we start to access the momentum, that gets a little bit seductive, but that's often the spot where we just need to pause, see what's happening now, like my friend Tom used to say, and just look inside. Press your forearms down. Give yourself the action of a crunch. Tailbone scoops, knee presses into foot. Breathe all around the circumference of your ribs. And I always like this when you guys have heard me say,
is as you take a breath, let this twist just kind of wring you out, all that stuff getting in the way. Seeing ourselves and the world a little more clearly. And then just inhaling into the space we need for an environment for that clarity. Inhale long through the crown. Let's keep ourselves going. We'll just walk on out of this tonight. A little Shavasana-esque, more subtle anatomy. It's we want the psoas, these core muscles, to kind of soften back into the back body as opposed to bouncing forward. We just work a little bit with that rebound effect in a positive way. Feet are flat. Lift and spread your toes. Feet go side to side. Well, I guess his pet would be eventually would be the parrot, right? Is to go, because we actually ended with the story, because his last incarnation is Vishnu itself, foot and knee, and some of you may have heard the parrot story. From here, check into these points as I name them. We've dropped the knees over to the right, stretch our left side psoas, and a whole bunch of other good stuff. You're leaning into your right thigh. Your left bum is up, and consistently, that's the tricky part with the willpower. How do we engage in a strong way that's just enough to enhance, right? And here it's key, because twisting can be really healthy if we have the support we need. Press your foot and knee together to create that tone, and like a loving hug, you're just gonna maintain it, even though I'm gonna keep you in this pose for days. From here, lift up your heart, broaden out your elbows, skull slides back. Next, exhale, turn your head and heart to the right. Inhale to the base of skull, taller. Exhale, broaden as you twist. The more we twist, those of us in that more free category, watch out for the ribs popping up. Don't overcompensate, but just feel that as you draw the ribs in just a smidge, you can connect that to a more subtle toning action all the way back down. It's all working together. No part of us operating independently. Walk yourself away and maybe a little bit to the right. And of course, you're just creating a practice that really honors this fire, makes healthy challenge. So some of us are gonna broaden out in this floating chaturanga I'm so obsessed with. I'm gonna describe it correctly this time. Right shoulder lifting up, heart turns to the right. Some of us might want to give ourselves even a few more breaths there, but pull long, create as much extension as you can. My best image in this one is that tiny segment of a really big spiral, right? So you're walking your hands away and a little bit to the right. And then we just worked some of the back bend effect for full length, but now we want to make sure that we're letting these core muscles slide back. We want to create some space, and it's kind of perfect because it's the gesture of humility that allows this to happen. Let your head go, relax your jaw, turn inside, exhale, press the elbows down, pull your ribs in. You're still doing a lot of good, sophisticated action, but soften it and feel yourself as the receiver. Creating an environment where you can support yourself in moving from your intention and getting the goods and the fruits of your desire and the actions. You yogis get out of here at any point. I'm just going to give us another breath or two. This invite of breathing around the circumference of the ribs, this idea that we're kind of getting wrung out on exhale, which is physiologically really accurate, by the way. Part of how our organs works. Thanks, you guys. And if you haven't, strong arms are going to walk you up. We're going to maneuver around. I have to, of course, I do in almost every class, and key for our immune systems is we'll do a little Chakravrasana. We'll do a little stoking, classic stoking of the fire, which has lots of good. Might want to put a blanket down. We'll be on our knees a bit. And then we're just going to play
with some different plank variations. This will, we have a wide range of bodies in the crowd, so I'll give us some options for a little more core things that will be appropriate for some of us. And some of us can work some of the modifications. So we'll just figure out what works best tonight. This, if wrists are just out of the picture, it's not as satisfying, but cat-cow definitely works here. There's even a little shoulder access. But remember, the cat-cow thing can really be accessed in a really wide variety of places, right? If you are even sitting in a chair right now, you could really work this practice, right? As long as the spine is free to find its full range of motion, it's gonna have that access or have that availability. So there's always a place where we can deal with if wrists or whatever it is, right? Knees, wrists. It's tough to be a body. I don't have to tell you guys. From here, find the version of table position that works best for you. If you haven't, go ahead and just kick right in. Exhale. I always like to, these days, I'm just encouraging just this reminder of this right behind the pubic bone action of breath. So next time you exhale, draw down with tailbone, and on just this first one, maybe a Halloween cat, just really feel this emptying and follow the emptying up from behind pubic bone up into belly, kind of faking it. Press the floor away from you, and then just let inhale be the gift that it is, and belly drops down. Just let yourself be filled, be much less the doer. And it might be useful to do that a time or two. Some of us might even want to stay up here with more cat-cow. And then many of us, of course, are just going to flow it into the little more traditional version, which is all the same stuff, but you're falling back towards child's pose. Work that hollowness in belly. As I like to say, minutes to learn, a lifetime to master. Play with the full attenuation of breath. Feel that deeper emptiness. Draw the navel in and up towards the spine. How hollow can your belly be? How empty can your lungs be? Those folks who are also visiting from Thursday class, you feel free, of course, to layer more interesting things. Bandhas, you could add Mula Bandha. The whole time or just on exhale. My little fundamentals talk on Vedic philosophy was resonating with you. A nice technique here, working from the tantric perspective, would be to see this as a cultivation of that flame of willpower at the city of gems that is at the navel, set your spine energetically. And it's a little my own thing, but this idea for me is just to kind of play with the metaphor of fire, as it's cultivating this energy of light as opposed to the heat. Thanks, you guys. In fact, since I know we have more than one wrist person tonight, next time you slide up, let's just meet in all fours. And what we'll do is come down to forearms. So you're in a table position. And from here, just before, we're going to end up on our bellies, and pelvis on blanket is probably a good setup for many of us. But just take advantage of this little crammed up table position and look up, press your elbows down, pull yourself forward, lengthen through your crown. Any little bit will take it. And then I'm hoping this, and then soften the space between your shoulder blades. Ribs are going to want to drop. Don't worry about them too much, because we're going to slide the legs back. So there's can be a little elbow thing here. So we're just going to do a couple things here, but it'll be worth our time to flip our palms up, uninterlace your hands, flip your palms up. And then from there, both isometrically pull your elbows towards one another. You're just kind of squeeze them towards one another. You kind of feel the bones will roll a little bit, and you'll be on kind of a fleshier part. And then wiggle your index fingers, and then just flip your palms over. Press your index finger knuckles down, and you're squeezing in. You're looking up, and you're melting your heart. if those lateral condyles, if those bony part of your elbows are still pressing down, then you just need a little padding. But that was not just for that though too. We're also, that was a good action for your elbows. And this is the first piece, you guys, and this could be a really good way to work for some of us, which is we're gonna bend the knees. This is harder than our other version of this, so recognize that. What I'm asking you to do is lengthen through the back of your head, from your tailbone, press your knees down and start to pull your ribs in. Some of us will be able to lift up pretty readily. And some of us, and it's all right if you don't lift up, as long as we're not sinking into the low back too much, create the engagement so you can feel kind of whatever lift you're doing. And of course, if you're lifting, the heat is building pretty quickly, is everybody's engaging. It's a good grounded way with stabilized shoulders and no wrist troubles to really work core. Take a break, unless you're really happy there, because we're going to play with that just a wee little bit more. Bend the elbows. If anybody, I am not doing a good job watching you guys right now. So if this is just totally not working, don't hesitate to chime in. We can play with some other more familiar table stuff, is where we have a little more freedom here. But the one more invitation is we're going to just work this same key action. Remember the fire, pull the ribs in, press down, and then assuming low back is good, some of us will press the feet down and lift up the knees. Really got to pull the ribs in, really got to squeeze. Obviously, this is a lot to ask. So the folks, don't go into the Chaturanga B. Be honest with back, right? So we're working, so it could be here or there. The folks who are in the full pose, the nice full pose, that's a poor way to describe it, is we can start to press through your heels, press back through your heels and your crown. If you are happy as a clam, you're gonna walk your feet in and take your butt up into what we call inexplicably dolphin pose. Most of us are gonna bring yourself down. Yep. So the folks in dolphin, squeeze your elbows together and stick your butt way up in the air. The folks who are down, let's give our elbows a break, and you can just walk yourself back to some version of child's pose or polar bear pose. And then, yeah, dolphin pose, folks, just come on down into child's pose. Let's all just meet up there, please. Take a nice bright breath. And I'm hoping, and I'm imagining, that we're all still friends. From here, let's just pause, and it's exactly that energy that I was kind of trying to stir, this deeper fire. And as we're gonna keep ourselves on track, let's just pause for a moment and kind of just acknowledge, both in the vitality, that little bit of rhythm, the energy, that little bit of heat, maybe a little bit of struggle, physical or mental. Maybe there's places to see where we were starting to squeeze the space out. Good work, yogis. Slide yourself back up. And as promised with Christy, we'll just work the legs a bit. So we're just gonna maneuver ourselves around, grab your strap. I'm hoping you have a strap or a tie, and we'll work ourselves through Supta Pod, which will be a nice way to ground. There's my strap. So we'll just meet up on our backs, yogis. And it might be worth it just to take a pause and just take a breath into the back of skull and pelvis. Reconnect with that rhythm of breath. Inhale down into pelvic floor. Exhale reaches back up towards heart. Soften your brain. And so, same piece here, right? It's easy as we go supine to kind of lose the bigger. That's the nice thing about some of that work we just touched on there a bit. Good work, everyone. Is right, it's activating some of the balancing poses and the standing poses, and even that earlier hip work. There are certain places where body has to engage just to stabilize, just because of its context, right? So that context is a little bit different in these supine poses, which is both an opportunity, right, for a little more spaciousness and for a little lack of engagement. So as you bend your right knee and loop the ball of your right foot, the other place that's kind of interesting to play with this willpower, that sort of more focused presence, fiery part of presence, is the rest of body can chill, but we're so able to really isolate and kind of get seduced by the sensation in the hamstrings, which we all have the story, pretty correctly, that it's going to be good to get our hamstrings longer. Not a bad idea if you want to, especially if chin likes to pop or shoulders are a little bit, to actually just prop yourself a smidge, maybe even just the tops of your shoulders, keep the ribs smooth. You guys know where I'm going with this one. Is we're gonna just loop right below the ball of the foot, right across the instep. And instead of cranking the elbows down, we're gonna use your arms, really let the straps be an extension of already extended arms. And in fact, it's a little counterintuitive. You just got into them more than you think you did, but we're gonna give up our shoulders a bit. And now as you pull your heel into the strap, you'll feel your hamstrings engage. Let that be a little softer. I promise we'll get there a little deeper in a moment, but then think of what I was describing in the rest of the body. Now stretch your left leg straight if it's not. And if it already was, that's fine. But everybody's gonna press into your heel, the heel of the leg on the floor. Top leg is working, but back it off to where it's not a distraction and definitely far from overwhelming. Press your left heel down. Use that. I know it's been 8 minutes since I said it. Use that to tilt your sacrum in without popping the ribs. I know. And then start to, from there, double check on breath. This is a really cool place to inhale into pelvis. You can even use that inhale to feed length through your left heel. And don't shortchange yourself on exhale, which is just going to be a general softening as exhale takes awareness back up into heart. Relax your brain. And then once you got all these pieces, then you're just really set up in a really good place to start to find this, where is the healthy challenge of the hamstrings, right? Which are inherently gonna tighten up every step you take. So then I'll just invite you. And what you might want to do first is, as you, assuming it's appropriate based on your experience, to start to turn the willpower up, turn the intensity consciously up. What you might want to do, the obvious, of course, is bringing the foot up, but you might want to try pressing the heel stronger. Yeah, the muscle physiology and latest research is really backing this up, the importance of stretching the muscles in engagement, which has been known for a long time, but stretching the muscle under load, under stress, what's to remind you of the mechanism of karma, is from here, right? So feel that just pressing, I shouldn't say just at all, press your heel pretty firmly and notice that the stretch changes, but you even have more access to the structure I was squawking about. Take some more of the space out from behind your left thigh. Get a little more fine-tuned with the ribs and lumbar curve. Double check on breath. And then if you're really working the hamstrings in a really strong, deliberate way, and you're not going to change up the orientation of pelvis, then start to deepen the angle. But I add that last because it's really another way to describe that. It's moving from the periphery. And mind and ego are going to tend to get caught up in where our toes are. The more we move from the periphery, the more we lose our center. According to my experience this week, physiologically and energetically or emotionally. From here, oh, that was a lot. Let's take advantage. Send some love to these hardworking parts. The sweet spot here, though, is really energetic, not only super good for low back, but really can be nicely energetically grounding. Take both straps into your right hand, please, into the same side you're working. Press a little bit more through the ball of your foot like you're walking on it with active toes. And then turn your whole leg to the right, externally rotate. Press a little bit more through the ball of your big toe. Keep reaching. We're not serving any form here. I talked about them very little for healthy low back class. Your adductors, adductor magnus is sometimes called the big main adductor, the unsung core muscle is the way I like to describe it. It's also sometimes described as the fourth hamstring. You can kind of feel there's a very similar tendinous thing going on. Press through the ball of your foot, spread your toes enthusiastically, hug your left leg into the midline. Breathe down into your pelvis, exhale to your heart. Inhales, bringing you back up. Both straps are in your left hand, right arm out to the side. Let's work. We'll go into our twist, our more familiar twist here. We've played with this a couple of times on the online. Is just to get a little bit to a harder place to stretch is IT band, and we do that. We go into the one with the knee bend. I like this one because the fascia flows all the way up through the leg. So anyway, spread your toes. This is a silly image, and don't do this, but like you are walking on the little toe side of your foot, kung fu foot, like evert, turn your foot in. Some of us will already get some stretch in those peroneal muscles. Take your right thumb, both straps are in your left hand. You're gonna take your right thumb and you're gonna put it right in that crease where your leg and pelvis meet, and just the best you can, you're gonna really hook into that crease, broaden out your elbow, ground the shoulder down, and then exhale. And don't let the hip come up. So you have to it's a little kind of a dance of action here. If you have a mate close by who's not doing yoga, say, honey, come pin my hip down. And from here, yeah, you can kind of get where we're going. You're stretching through that little toe side of the foot and you're grounding your hip down. And most of us are gonna find something to work with and breathe into here. If you're not, and you're understanding me, then it's just good news. It just means your IT band and the fascia in your legs real happy. And then from there, you stay there a little longer. If you're really onto something, of course, right arm, right shoulder out to the side, and we'll do our more familiar exhale. Let the foot roll, let the hip come up. Press your palm down and turn your heart to the right. Breathe all around the circumference of your ribs. Feel yourself as a container, activated in an opening space. Extend through it that same piece. I just kind of touched on it because me and it's good work. We could have probably done it a little more, is because me and Susan talked about it earlier, but that same quality of the organic extension or the bone extension, reach through your lower heel, really reaching through both heels here. Inhale is a good cue to come up. Let's bend your right knee. Pause. Even yourself out. Of course, we're heading to the other side, but take a moment to breathe, to feel, to be. And remember, we kind of played a little tuning in this very familiar pose for all of us. So watch out for most of us, watch out for automatic pilot, watch out for the back bend, wanting to creep in from where we just were. So maybe you saw that I just gave myself a little length. Remember, you could be a little propped, just the upper body. But let's go ahead and keep the right foot flat for a moment. And then remember what we did, we just set ourselves up and got a good hold, reminded ourselves, checked in on shoulders, and in a sense, give those up a little bit for this pose. And then from here, right, we're backing that off. Then we're gonna tune into body, just take a breath into it. Notice how pelvis is resting. You can pull into your right heel a little bit, assuming you're not too much into the hamstrings, you can set yourself into a nice neutral, sacrum tipping in. Stretch your right leg out. Stay in your right leg, awareness-wise. Press your heel down, hyperextenders. Christy, watch out for locking out your knee. Need to look at our list, honestly. Tip the sacrum in. Pull on, and then, yeah, tune into body, check on ribs, check on breath, check on brow, check your own usual suspects. And then, remember it's part one here, pull on the foot. Don't worry about changing position, even though you probably will in a moment. Once again, play with that more direct and obvious and stabilizing aspect of this remarkable you, your muscular system, and engage more. Press into the heel. Feel how you can use that to actually ground your right thigh more. Maybe stabilize pelvis more. Paint your experience for you. And then check in with breath. Exhale is a better teacher than me. If exhale is smooth, then it might be appropriate for you to change the angle of your leg, but ideally without changing the setup in pelvis. So ideally, I can feel I've been moving stuff for the last 3 days. I can feel how from my ears to my ribs, everything's a little short. Power of your left leg, grounding your right thigh. Send some love into your hamstrings. See, part two is both straps are going into your left hand. You're going to press into the ball of your foot like you're walking on it. You're going to externally rotate. You're going to turn your foot. And you're going to take your leg out to the left. There's other adductors. Gracilis, there's all sorts of stuff going on in our legs. But the one we're mostly feeling here, especially as guys, and in my experience, not just in my body, but with working with lots of bodies, us long, thin guys, Michael, like to, they tend to have the tighter adductors. Press through the ball of your big toe, yogis. A few of us here, a scoop on the tail on the left side will help decompress the low back. Do better than me and hug your right leg into the midline. There's you guys. Inhales, bringing you back up. And then remember, we took this little IT band detour. So it's funny, it's called evert, and you're gonna turn your foot in. So it's just rotation. Once again, like you're walking on the little toe side. Keep that and spread your toes, easy for me to say. Start to take the leg across the body, right? With not thinking of the twist, but still just like the last pose, just working, the last two poses, just working out of Tadasana, right? So instead of this bigger move that we do to get the belly involved, you're gonna take your left thumb, you're gonna hook it right in there. Don't be shy, use a little bit of strength, some of that good willpower. Round out your elbow, ground down your shoulder. And then kind of find, where's the sweet spot? That E version where you can create that action in foot and spreading the toes. Feel free to work that a little bit if you're really onto something juicy. For the group, I'll invite us to take your left arm out to the side. Exhale. That more familiar twist where we're rolling to the little toe side, really reaching through heel. Feel how as you extend through the lower heel, you can actually reach more through your crown. And this is also where it will be probably useful for most of us to use elbows or arms to create a little turn of the heart to the left. Most importantly, last time I say it, I promise, breathe all around the circumference of your ribs. Twist in the most integrating class of poses. So much to integrate just on the most visceral physiological level, but
of course. So many things happening in our world and universe. Nice. Bend your knee if you want to get out of here softer, or lengthen yourself back up. Let's all come down with a bending knee. Shake yourself out. Stomp the feet a little bit. I'm just gonna, got my little studio snafu here. I'm gonna just slip us right towards Shavasana, and we'll do a little technique. So if you're happy where you are, feel free just to stretch out. If you want to take a moment to set yourself up. And actually, since we just ended in a twist, I should encourage everyone to just bring knees to chest. It's just a good idea to do something a little more even. And a good clearing technique was two ways we can kind of get the main effect is bringing your palms to your knees and pressing them into each other, or press your shins into your hands. Either way, you'll feel your low back engage. And then from there, for real this time, stretch out or take a moment to find a good setup. I'll just invite you back to the breath pattern of feeling inhale connected all the way down into pelvic floor, even down into sits bones. And I just like this image. I hope I'm not working it too much. This like nurturing nectar, just kind of feeling this greater gravity and tangibility, I suppose, of breath, the grounding and power of it. And then also this sense of letting go and clearing out, and just kind of feeling this as a lift back up to an opening heart and a clear throat and open ears. Just enjoy and follow this flow. Try less. And feel the weight of your bones, particularly in your heels and at your seat and your elbows. Shoulders themselves in the back of your head. Feel your own gravity and strength. Let's just do one or two more rounds, just real gently. Maybe with a little extra space on the exhale. You're just taking a little more time with it. Gently present, comfortably curious. And then the next time an exhale brings awareness back up towards heart, just stay there. The breath pattern may continue of its own accord, but you're just going to rest in your heart. Guya Hridayam, this cave of your heart, the yogis say. This resource, this destination. that little bit of warmth of our efforts, both in slowing down our momentum and in cultivating heat. The choice to give yourself this time. And we recognize, with so many other things, of course, that gift is something that we share with all the hearts in the world. We'll just take a moment here as we end practice tonight. What the yogis consider the most important of all of the poses is to both recognize that in you and to allow tonight's practice to be an offering to that place in all the hearts we share the world with. Everything is energy, infinite, shimmering, vibrant, flowing. The whole body is vibrating in harmony with the universe. The whole universe is vibrating in tune with the body. Drift in this infinite sea of energy, light energy, bioenergy, electricity, sound. Float in silence, peace, and heart. Take a moment to feel. Experience yourself in deep rest and peace.
Yogis would suggest when we shift out of all of the confusion and the fear, the misidentification, this is in fact our truest state. Take a little fuller breath with the strong, heartfelt intention that all beings connect with this truth in their hearts, support all beings to be free of pain and distress, for all beings to have the wisdom to choose love over fear. I find it useful to slide a hand onto heart and just take a bigger breath into heart. Hey, Jai Bhagwan, everyone.